We have a big story for you now. After a legal battle covering many years, Lake Oswego City Council voting tonight not to appeal a decision mandating public access to Oswego Lake. The city once restricted public use of the lake. Today, they're deciding to leave the issue alone. Let's get straight to Katu's Tanvi Verma, who joins us from Lake Oswego tonight. So, Tanvi, this topic has been emotional for years for some.
That's right, Barry. So there used to be racial covenants restricting minorities from not being able to live in the area. So the concern is that now this restriction would have a similar effect. On the other hand, people say this is not at all about race, and it's just about property rights. A full house tonight at a special city council meeting here in Lake Oswego. Though many asked the city to appeal a ruling that would allow public access to the lake, the council voted not to. That's something one former Lake Oswego resident is pleased about.
So if you looked in there tonight and you look at like the makeup of the room in general, you looked at who testified, you look at just who was, just in there in general, there's not a lot of people that look like me who see themselves even in this argument. The people advocating for, closed lake access are talking about we don't want to bring the wrong element into the town. Like, it's just the dog whistles.
We brought the issue of race to a city councilor who voted to appeal the ruling. That is, to restrict access to the public. Some people were concerned that with restricted access, it would disproportionately harm minorities who are not able to use the resource, who don't live in Lake Oswego. There'd be that disparate impact. What would you say to them?
I would say that that's a false statement. I think that the demographics and racial demographics of Lake Oswego mimic the rest of the state. I don't think there is, in my opinion, race has nothing to do with this issue.
Many felt that property rights was the issue. People pay for easements to use the lake and don't want to foot the bill for the public. Residents in the area also pay for the upkeep of the lake.
I feel this is one, I feel like the judges got the decision wrong, and I feel like we need to, or my personal opinion was, we have to look after a large majority of our city and our constituents, and a third of those people wrote in and made comments to ask us to appeal the court's decision.
An appeal could have cost the city over $100,000. That's according to the city attorney.
You're just really wasting money to prolong a process when you can be investing in a different Lake Oswego, which I think is what tonight's decision hopefully helped spur us towards.
That's on top of all the money that has already been spent. Is it true that almost $1 million went into fighting this legal battle?
Yeah, over 12 years we spent about $1 million, which is ultimately comes out to be about 70 grand a year. So really, it's when it comes to a city budget like Lake Oswego, it's very minimal.
And we spoke to the Lake Oswego Corporation, and they are going to be appealing this decision, which means it could be up in the air whether the access to the lake is restricted. Reporting live in Lake Oswego, Tanvi Verma, K2 News.
Big vote tonight. The legal battle is not done yet. Tanvi, thank you for that.
I think it's great that the lake is going to be public.
But will it stay public? Tonight, the city of Lake Oswego hearing from residents about whether it should appeal a recent ruling from a judge permitting public access to Oswego Lake. Let's take a live look now. A special city council meeting just started a few minutes ago. You can see quite the crowd has turned out in Lake Oswego. Again, tonight, the city will hear from residents and consider two resolutions regarding future access to the lake. One of those resolutions would authorize the city to appeal that recent ruling in hopes of keeping the lake private. The other resolution would identify additional steps needed to open it to the public. The city needs to make that decision by this Wednesday, April 2nd. That's the deadline to file an appeal. For more on this, here's K2's Christina Giardinelli.
The city is set to sit through an hour of public testimony today on whether to appeal a judge's decision to grant public access here at Millennial Plaza Park to the lake. It's a controversial topic that many residents told me they're not willing to talk about, especially on camera. Some told me off camera that they don't mind allowing access, but feel they should not have to keep paying for private access now that a judge has said it's open.
The lake has been, maintained forever at the cost of the private shareholders. So just very interested to see how that plays out.
The private shareholders support the Lake Oswego Corporation, who manages safety and protects the waterways from invasive species. Many residents who have submitted written testimony want to know who will take on that cost now that the public has access. While some are calling for the city to appeal, others say they are more concerned about answers to those unknowns.
I think that some of these people complaining that it's private aren't really thinking through who pays for it.
The city has not said how or if it will pay for part of the cost to manage the lake. Some, like Brian, say they understand both sides of this debate and also do not have an opinion on whether the city should appeal.
It's obviously very pretty, but I understand from reading that a number of people would like access, and there's not very much room for the access right there.
But when it comes to the legal battle, some have strong opinions about whether the city should appeal.
I think they've spent enough money already on legal fees and just let it go. That's my opinion.
Former Lake Oswego resident Jonathan Seltzman says he hopes the city will not appeal.
I think it's great that the lake is going to be public. Historically, it's been held privately by the corporation, but its waterways shouldn't be held exclusively. And it's not in the spirit of Oregon to gatekeep public spaces.
Tonight, the city will hear from its residents on whether or not to file that appeal. It has not said yet when it will make the decision, but the deadline to appeal is Wednesday. In Lake Oswego, Cristina Giardinelli, K2 News.
And now we're going to give another live look inside of that city council meeting for that special meeting in Lake Oswego. K2's Dunvi Varma is in that room right now as that meeting gets underway. We're going to have a live report from her coming up at 6:30.